Most people believe procrastination is simply a lack of discipline, willpower, or motivation. But the truth is much deeper. Procrastination is not just a habit, it's a state of mind and energy. And when we look at it through the lens of quantum thinking, we begin to see that procrastination is nothing more than a repetition of the past projected into the future. Think about it. Every time you procrastinate, you're not making a conscious choice in the present moment. Instead, you're operating from old memories, old emotions, and old wiring in the brain. You're repeating the familiar chemical state of, I'll do it later, and that state has become part of your identity. Now, here's the quantum truth. Your thoughts create your reality. If you think the same thoughts, you will make the same choices. The same choices lead to the same behaviors. The same behaviors create the same experiences, and the same experiences produce the same emotions. That cycle is the very definition of procrastination, living in a predictable future based on a familiar past. But when you step into quantum thinking, you begin to break the cycle. Quantum thinking is the awareness that the future is not a linear extension of the past. It is a field of infinite possibilities. The moment you decide to think differently, you step out of the old timeline and create a new one. So how do we stop procrastination using quantum thinking? First, we must recognize when we are caught in the loop. The instant you feel yourself delaying, escaping, or distracting, pause. Bring your awareness into the present. Notice the old emotion, whether it's fear, doubt, or laziness, and don't judge it, just observe it. Second, you shift your energy. You must elevate your emotional state into possibility, creativity, and action. When you align with elevated emotions like inspiration and gratitude, your brain begins to fire in new ways. The chemistry of your body shifts. You're no longer a prisoner of the old self. You are becoming the creator of a new one. Third, you rehearse the new future. Close your eyes and imagine yourself already having completed the task you were delaying. Feel the relief, the accomplishment, the freedom. When your brain and body experience the future emotionally, the subconscious mind begins to believe it is real. And once it believes, your body will follow through in the present. Finally, you take one aligned step. Not 10, not 20, just one. In the quantum field, that one action collapses the wave of possibility into reality. The more you act in alignment with your new future, the more you anchor yourself into it. And each small action compounds until procrastination is no longer your identity, but a memory of who you once were. The science of change is simple. You cannot create a new reality with the same mind that created the old one. The moment you think greater than you feel, the moment you align your thoughts with your vision instead of your emotions, you become free. So today, I invite you to stop seeing procrastination as a weakness. See it as a signal that you're still operating in the old program. And then, in that moment, make the quantum choice to step into a new possibility. The future you desire is already waiting. It only needs you to stop delaying and start aligning. Because the truth is, when you master quantum thinking, procrastination disappears, and what's left is pure creation. Most people misunderstand procrastination. They think it is a matter of laziness, lack of ambition, or poor time management. But if we look closer, we realize that procrastination is not simply about what we do or don't do. It is about who we are being in the moment. It is not just a behavior. It is a state of energy and consciousness that repeats itself over and over. When you procrastinate, you are not making a fresh choice in the present moment. You are repeating the past. You are living the same familiar emotional states, the same thought patterns, and the same body chemistry that you have rehearsed for years. In other words, procrastination is a memory running automatically disguised as a decision. Every time you delay action, your body and brain are aligning with a conditioned program. That program is built from old experiences and the emotions connected to them. Think about the last time you told yourself, I'll do it later. Did that thought arise from clarity and inspiration, or did it come from an old, familiar feeling? maybe resistance, maybe doubt, maybe the comfort of distraction. That emotion carries information from the past, and when you surrender to it, you are recycling yesterday's state of being into today. This is why procrastination feels like a trap, because it literally is a loop between memory and anticipation, between who you were and who you expect to be. When we see procrastination through this lens, we realize it is not about weakness, but about identity. The brain is designed to be efficient. When it recognizes a familiar situation, it runs the old wiring automatically. If in the past you hesitated, avoided, or delayed, the brain wires those choices together with the emotions you felt at the time. Over repetition, those circuits become stronger. The body begins to anticipate the delay even before you consciously decide. In fact, most procrastination doesn't happen in the mind first. It happens in the body. The body remembers the emotion of putting things off, and it signals the brain to follow that feeling with familiar thoughts. This is how the cycle sustains itself. Now here's the profound realization: procrastination is not happening to you. It is happening through you because you are identified with an old program. You are living as the effect of your past rather than the cause of your future. You might say, I want to start my project, I want to take action, I want to move forward. But as long as your body is chemically addicted to the feelings of avoidance, hesitation, or fear, it will always win the battle against your conscious mind. That is why willpower alone is never enough to break free. The subconscious program is stronger, faster, and more practiced than your conscious effort. When you understand procrastination as a state of energy rather than a flaw in discipline, everything changes. You no longer judge yourself harshly. Instead, you become aware. Awareness is the first step to transformation. When you catch yourself falling into the old emotional state, you can pause. In that pause, you witness the old program trying to run itself again. By simply noticing, you create distance between who you are in this moment and who you have been. And in that small distance lies freedom, the freedom to choose differently. Procrastination, then, is not a curse, it is feedback. It is showing you where your past still controls your present. It reveals where your body has memorized an old state of being so deeply that it can override your conscious intention. And the moment you see it this way, you gain power. Because if procrastination is just energy, then you can shift it. If it is just a memorized state, then you can unmemorize it. The key is stepping out of the automatic loop and reclaiming your awareness. This is the essence of the first breakthrough. Procrastination is not laziness. It is a repeated state of mind and energy. And the moment you recognize that truth, you are no longer a victim of it. You have begun the process of breaking free. When we talk about procrastination, we must understand it is not random. It follows a very specific cycle. It begins in the mind, moves into the body, and then reflects back into your reality. The cycle always looks the same. Your thoughts create your choices. Your choices create your behaviors shape your experiences, and your experiences produce emotions. And those emotions reinforce the very thoughts that began the process. This is how procrastination sustains itself, not as a single decision, but as a self-perpetuating loop of consciousness and chemistry. Imagine you wake up in the morning with a task in front of you. Immediately, a thought arises, it's going to be hard, or I'll start later when I feel ready. That thought is not neutral. It carries energy. The brain begins to wire itself into a familiar pattern, recalling all the other times you delayed. Now, as you entertain that thought, you make a choice. Instead of beginning the task, you scroll through your phone, make another cup of coffee, or distract yourself with something easier. That choice leads directly to a behavior: avoidance. You do something that feels safer, less demanding, more comfortable. Now, here is the crucial part: that behavior creates an experience. You might feel temporary relief or comfort in not facing the challenge. But with that experience comes an emotion, maybe guilt, maybe frustration, maybe a subtle sense of powerlessness. And that emotion, because the body has memorized it so feeds back into the brain, producing more thoughts of delay, more reasons to justify why you didn't take action, more excuses for why the right moment hasn't arrived. That is the loop. And every time you run through it, you strengthen the wiring that makes procrastination automatic. This is why procrastination feels so heavy, so persistent, so difficult to break. You are not just battling one thought. You are battling an entire network of thoughts, choices, behaviors, experiences, and emotions that have become a conditioned cycle. Your body knows it, your mind rehearses it, and your reality confirms it. That is why it feels predictable, because it is. The future you imagine is simply the past repeated. But let us look at it through a quantum perspective. In the quantum field, the future is not defined by the past. Every possibility exists simultaneously. Yet, as long as you continue to think and feel in the same way, you collapse the same outcomes into your reality. When you think the thought of delay, you are not just imagining a possibility, you are selecting it. When you feel the emotion of guilt after avoiding action, you are not just reacting, you are reinforcing that version of reality. In other words, you are choosing the same future over and over again, even when you claim you want something different. What's important here is not to judge yourself, but to recognize the mechanics of the process. Because once you see the cycle clearly, you also see the doorway out of it. If a thought of delay begins the loop, then a new thought can end it. If a choice of avoidance sustains it, then a new choice of courage can break it. If a behavior of distraction keeps it alive, then a behavior of alignment can transform it. The cycle works both ways. It can trap you, but it can also free you. And here's the empowering truth. Every single moment is an opportunity to disrupt the cycle. You don't have to wait for the perfect motivation or the perfect plan. The very moment you recognize you are in the loop, you already have the power to step out of it. You can choose a new thought, a new emotion, and a new action. And when you do, you create a new experience. That new experience generates a new emotion, maybe pride, accomplishment, or even relief. And that emotion feeds back into your brain, wiring a new pattern of possibility. This is how change happens, not by forcing willpower against procrastination, but by shifting the cycle at its root. Procrastination is nothing more than energy circulating in a predictable loop. The instant you alter one link in the chain, the whole loop begins to dissolve. And from there, you step into a new identity, one that is not defined by delay, but by action, clarity, and creation. Quantum thinking is the key to breaking the cycle of procrastination. Most of us see time as linear. We believe our future is simply an extension of our past. We wake up with the same thoughts, we feel the same emotions, we make the same choices, and we assume tomorrow will look like yesterday. That is the mindset that keeps procrastination alive. But quantum thinking invites us to see reality in an entirely different way. It tells us that the future is not fixed. It is fluid, open, and filled with infinite possibilities. And the moment we decide to think differently, we shift the path ahead. When you procrastinate, you are not choosing from infinite possibilities. You are collapsing the same familiar one over and over again. You are replaying the same state of being as if you are trapped in a loop of predictability. But what if you began to think of every moment as a quantum moment? In that instant, you are not bound by your history. You are not a victim of your conditioning. You are standing in the field of pure potential, where countless versions of you already exist. There is the you who delays and avoids, but there is also the you who acts boldly, who creates, who finishes, who thrives. Both versions are real in the quantum field. The question is, which one will you choose to embody? Quantum thinking is awareness that your attention is your power. Wherever you place your attention, energy flows. If you keep placing your attention on fear of failure, on the comfort of distraction, on the uncertainty of starting, then you are energizing the version of yourself that procrastinates. But the moment you place your attention on possibility, on action, on the feeling of completion, you are sending energy into a different version of yourself. And in the quantum field, energy is what collapses a potential future into reality. Think about this: every time you hesitate, your mind says, later. But later does not exist. There is only now. Later is just another name for repeating the past in the future. In quantum thinking, you stop waiting for later and begin to act now, because now is the only place creation can happen. The present moment is the gateway to every possibility. And the more you anchor yourself in the present, the more you disconnect from the old timeline of delay and connect to a new one of momentum. This is not about forcing yourself with discipline or fighting procrastination as if it's an enemy. It is about shifting identity. The procrastinating self is one version of you, but it is not the only version. In the field of infinite potential, there exists a self who already lives without procrastination, a self who sees action as natural, joyful, effortless. When you think with quantum awareness, you begin to align with that self. You ask, if I were already that version of me, what would I do right now? And then you act from that place, even in a small way. That one shift begins to pull you out of the old loop and into a new timeline. What makes quantum thinking so powerful is that it bypasses the old conditioning. Instead of trying to fix the past or argue with your resistance, you simply step into a different future. You no longer ask, how do I stop procrastinating? Instead, you ask, which version of me am I choosing to embody right now? That question instantly expands your awareness and frees you from the illusion that your past must dictate your future. So understand this: the cycle of procrastination survives because you believe tomorrow will be like yesterday. Quantum thinking breaks that illusion. It awakens you to the truth that tomorrow can be radically different if you choose differently today. And that choice does not require massive effort. It requires awareness, intention, and alignment. The very moment you think greater than your old emotions, you are no longer the same person. You are collapsing a new reality. You are proving to yourself that procrastination is not who you are. It is simply who you were. Quantum thinking, then, is the art of choosing possibility over predictability. It is stepping out of the familiar loop and stepping into the infinite. And when you live this way, procrastination cannot survive. Because the self that delays does not exist in the future you are consciously creating. If procrastination is a state of energy in a repeated cycle, then the way to break it is not through struggle or self-criticism, but through awareness and alignment. Stopping procrastination requires a conscious shift into a new state of being. And when we look at it through quantum thinking, the process becomes clear. It unfolds in four simple but powerful steps: awareness, shifting energy, rehearsing the future, and taking one aligned step. The first step is awareness. Most people live their lives unconsciously, repeating the same thoughts and emotions without ever realizing it. Awareness is when you pause and notice the program running. The moment you feel yourself delaying, distracting, or escaping, you catch it. You say to yourself, this is the old pattern trying to run again. And by observing it instead of blindly following it, you create space. That space is crucial. It means you are no longer fully identified with procrastination. You are the observer of it, not the prisoner of it. Awareness is like shining a light into the dark room of your mind. It exposes the hidden loops that keep you trapped. The second step is to shift your energy. Once you are aware of the old state, you cannot stay in it and expect to change. You must move from the emotions of fear, doubt, or lethargy into higher states like inspiration, gratitude, or excitement. Why? Because emotions are energy, and energy is what fuels thought. If you are feeling low, your thoughts will reflect that state, thoughts of delay, worry, and avoidance. But if you elevate your energy, your thoughts naturally shift to align with creation and possibility. You can change your energy through breath, meditation, movement, or even simply choosing to recall a moment of deep gratitude. The moment your energy rises, your body begins to believe that something new is possible. The third step is rehearsing the future. Most people rehearse procrastination. They imagine the difficulty, They anticipate the stress, and they create an inner picture of resistance. But what if you rehearse success instead? Close your eyes and imagine yourself having already completed the task. Feel the relief in your body, the pride in your heart, the freedom in your mind. Your brain does not know the difference between imagination and reality when the emotion is strong enough. By emotionally experiencing the future before it happens, you are programming your subconscious to believe it is possible now. That belief is powerful because the body begins to expect success rather than delay. The final step is to take one aligned action. Not 100, not the entire journey, just one step that is in harmony with the future you rehearsed. That one action collapses the wave of potential into physical reality. It tells your body, we are no longer the old self who delays, we are the new self who creates. And because you are acting from a state of elevated energy and vision, that action carries momentum. It is no longer forced willpower, it is aligned choice. Each small step compounds, reinforcing the identity of a person who takes action. Before long, procrastination is no longer part of your reality. It becomes a memory of who you used to be. The beauty of this method is its simplicity. You don't need to fight procrastination. You don't need to wait for perfect motivation. You simply need to catch the old program, elevate your energy, imagine a new future, and then take one aligned step toward it. Do this repeatedly, and you rewire your brain, recondition your body, and redefine your identity. So the process is not about forcing action. It is about becoming the version of you who naturally acts. The quantum field already contains that version. Every time you go through these 4 steps, you are aligning yourself with it. And eventually, procrastination no longer feels like a struggle. It simply fades away, replaced by clarity, momentum, and creation. The science of change reveals something profound. You cannot create a new reality with the same mind that created the old one. This truth explains why so many people stay trapped in cycles like procrastination, even when they consciously want to change. They try harder, push themselves with willpower, and demand better results, yet they continue to fall back into the same patterns. Why? Because the mind they are using is still wired to the past. And as long as you think in the same way, you will continue to create the same outcomes. Think of your mind as a set of circuits. Every thought you have fires a network of neurons. When you repeat a thought over and over, those circuits become stronger, more automatic, more efficient. If for years you have thought, or I'm not ready yet, then those pathways in your brain are highly conditioned. Each time you procrastinate, you are reinforcing those circuits, making them more real and more dominant. Your body, in turn, memorizes the emotions of avoidance, guilt, or relief until it knows them better than your conscious mind does. At that point, the body becomes the mind. It takes over, running the program automatically without your awareness. This is why trying to change with willpower often fails. Willpower is like trying to swim upstream against a strong current. The moment you are distracted or tired, the old program takes over, pulling you back into the familiar. The science of change teaches us that true transformation requires more than effort. It requires creating a new mind. A new mind means new thoughts, new emotions, new choices, new behaviors, and ultimately a new identity. But here's the beautiful part: the brain is not fixed. It is neuroplastic, meaning it can rewire itself. The circuits of procrastination are not permanent, they are simply reinforced. When you begin to think differently, when you start to elevate your emotions, when you repeatedly choose action instead of delay, you are creating new neural pathways. At first, these pathways are weak, like fragile connections. But the more you fire them, the stronger they become. Eventually, the new circuits outcompete the old ones, and procrastination no longer feels natural. It feels unfamiliar. Action, clarity, and creation become your new baseline. Emotion is the fuel of this process. Thoughts are the electrical signals in the brain, but emotions are the chemical messengers in the body. If your thoughts are aligned with the past, but your emotions are aligned with fear or doubt, you are still creating from the old mind. The moment you think greater than how you feel, you begin to break free. You elevate your emotions, gratitude, inspiration, courage, and suddenly your body begins to believe in a new future. This alignment between thought and elevated emotion is what signals your subconscious to rewire itself. From a quantum perspective, the moment you think greater than your emotions, you are stepping into a new timeline. You are no longer creating from memory, you are creating from possibility. That is the essence of the science of change. You stop repeating who you were and begin rehearsing who you want to become. Over time, your body no longer craves the emotions of procrastination. Instead, it seeks the emotions of accomplishment, freedom, and momentum. So understand this transformation is not about fighting the old self. It is about outgrowing it. You don't have to destroy the circuits of procrastination. You simply have to stop feeding them and start wiring new ones. Every time you choose differently, you are casting a vote for a new identity. And eventually, those small choices accumulate into a new mind, a new body, and a new future. The science of change shows us that procrastination is not who you are, it is who you have practiced being. And the moment you practice a new way of thinking and feeling, you are no longer the same person. You have created a new mind, and with that new mind comes a new reality. Most people treat procrastination as a weakness. They judge themselves, criticize their lack of discipline, and carry the weight of guilt every time they delay. But what if procrastination is not a weakness at all? What if it is a signal, an intelligent message from your subconscious, showing you exactly where you are still living in the past? When you begin to see it this way, everything changes. Instead of condemning yourself for procrastinating, you start to recognize it as feedback. And feedback is power because it points to the very patterns you are ready to transform. Think about it. Procrastination always arises in the same places, in the tasks that stretch you, in the moments that require growth, in the challenges that ask you to step beyond your comfort zone. Why? Because those are the places where your old program feels threatened. The brain and body are wired to prefer the familiar. The moment you step toward the unknown, the subconscious sends up resistance in the form of hesitation, distraction, or delay. That is procrastination's true function. It is a signal that says, you are leaving the comfort of the past. Instead of labeling it as failure, what if you recognized it as evidence that you are standing at the edge of change? When procrastination appears, it means you are brushing against the boundary between who you have been and who you are becoming. It is not a flaw in your character. It is a reminder that the old self does not want to let go. And that awareness gives you a choice. You can either retreat back into the familiar emotions of doubt, fear, and avoidance, or you can step forward into creation. The signal of procrastination is not meant to stop you. It is meant to awaken you. When you see procrastination as feedback, you stop reacting with judgment. Instead, you become curious. You ask, what emotion am I feeling right now? What thought is looping through my mind? What part of me is still attached to the old identity? That curiosity brings awareness, and awareness is the first step toward transformation. Once you name the emotion, you take its power away. Once you see the thought as just a program, you are no longer controlled by it. The signal has done its job. It has shown you where you need to break free. From a quantum perspective, procrastination is the body reminding you of your old timeline. It is saying, if you continue in this state, you will recreate the same predictable future. But that is also the invitation. It is pointing you toward the choice to align with a different possibility. The moment you feel the signal, you can shift your energy, rehearse a new outcome, and take an aligned step. Without the signal, you might stay asleep in the old program forever. With it, you are given the gift of awareness. So the next time you feel procrastination rising up, don't immediately see it as weakness. See it as a compass. It is guiding you to the exact point of resistance where change is possible. It is showing you where the old self is trying to survive, And when you meet it with elevated emotions, gratitude, courage, or inspiration, you transmute the signal into momentum. You are literally taking the energy that once delayed you and using it as fuel for creation. This shift in perspective is powerful because it removes the shame around procrastination. Instead of saying, something is wrong with me, you begin to say, something is showing me where I'm ready to grow. That subtle shift turns procrastination from a prison into a teacher. And when you honor it as a signal, you move through it with greater ease. Procrastination is not a weakness. It is not proof that you are broken. It is simply feedback from your old self, reminding you where you have been. But you are not your past. You are the creator of your future. The signal is there to wake you up, to remind you to choose again, to align with the self who no longer delays, but acts with clarity and intention. And when you see procrastination this way, it loses its grip on you. It no longer feels like a curse. It feels like guidance, a signpost pointing you toward freedom.